Hi, welcome to the series of lectures that I'm giving on puppetry and the various forms of puppetry that can be found. For this series of lectures, I'm going to be really just beginning with the basics. My hope is to provide an overview of the history and the types of puppetry, and then to allow you to delve deeper into whichever area interests you. So this is really just going to serve as an introduction to puppetry as an art form and some of the basic history and some of the forms of puppetry, because there's a lot out there that can be dug into in depth that I just don't have time to cover in this short series. I can only hope that these the images and videos I'm going to show you and that we're going to link to can spark an interest that will get you out there exploring and learning more about the art form. So with that said, let's begin by looking at the question, what is puppetry, why is it important, and what can it reveal about us? So first, what makes an object into a puppet? A puppet really is any inanimate object that can be endowed with a life force by a person. This can have a very broad range, from handmade, carved puppets on strings, dolls, to found objects. What makes puppets so powerful is the fact that they are really inanimate objects, objects without a life force, objects that are just stationary and sitting there, and that they are given life through the manipulation by the puppeteer. What this animation can do is to provide a wide variety of effects upon an audience. I've heard puppet theater often referred to as object theater, or puppets as constructed actors. I think these phrases kind of start to get at what it is that makes puppetry such a powerful form of theater. Often puppets can be broadly funny, they can be touching, they can be creepy, they can elicit a variety of effects on an audience member just through the fact that they are not acting, but they are actually becoming and being the things they really represent in a way that live actors cannot. Puppets have been used for art theater, for education, for political theater, for satire, children's theater, especially beginning in the 19th century. They have performed on streets, in legitimate theaters, on carts, on television, on film. The long history of puppetry in so many areas of the world that we're going to talk about speaks to the power inherent in the form that can change and modify itself to suit a variety of places, times, and subjects. Puppetry has existed for thousands of years in several ways, kind of changing itself. The art form changes itself to match the surrounding society and touch the surrounding society in a way that is specific to puppetry. So throughout this lecture series, we're going to cover a variety of topics. I'm going to take you through a short history of puppetry in the next lecture, and then we're going to kind of divide up the styles of puppetry and then cover some specific topics beyond that. We're going to look at the way things have developed. One thing I want to point out before we get too deep into these lectures is I debated trying to use some video clips, things like that within the lectures, but what I'm going to do is, and you've probably seen this when you were going to download the video, and what I'm going to do is give you a series of annotated links to various videos that have been put out by artists and organizations around the U.S., around the world, that give you good examples that we're talking about. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to appear on the page, but they should be fairly easy to find. And what I'm going to do is provide these links and include some short notes about what to look for in these videos, about why either the puppetry there is good or a bad example of a particular feature of puppetry. Because really, you can read about puppetry, you can look at pictures, you can watch these lectures, but like theater, puppetry is an art of action, and that action must be really seen to be and experienced to be understood. And so I urge you to find and follow these puppetry links to then start getting out. I mean, the internet is just full of really excellent and really horrible examples of puppetry. And if nothing else throughout this course, what I want you to do is to start to really determine for yourself, kind of develop an aesthetic of what is going to be good and bad puppetry, or what can be good and bad about certain plays and productions or clips or whatnot. And the only way to do that is to start experiencing it. And if you can't get up to the live theater to see it, the next best thing is going to be a lot of these video presentations behind the scenes and that sort of thing. So look for those on the iTunes U page. So, and I really want you to think of these lectures then as a supplement to what you can see in these various YouTube videos, promotional behind the scenes videos. So that what you're doing is you're experiencing the theater, and then you can come here and we can kind of talk about either what it is that you've seen or what will make it help you explore a little more in depth about what it is that you're looking at. Because that is, throughout the course, that is one of the questions that I really want to pose and hopefully give you a good foundation to formulate an answer to, and that is what makes good puppetry. Good puppetry has a couple of elements that are common across different styles of puppetry, whether it's marionettes, whether it's rod puppets, whether it's shadow puppetry, water puppetry. There's a ton of styles that look and act completely different. And like all forms of theater, throughout this form, there are hacks, there are craftsmen, and then there are artists. There are these levels of skill and artistry that you can find throughout the form. Good puppetry can be broad and silly, or it can be extremely subtle. It can be extremely violent or sublime. It can be for adults or it can be for children. Good, and I use that term loosely, but good puppetry can be found in all of those areas. So let's look at some of the factors as we get started that we can kind of judge performance and production on. First, there's going to be a synthesis of design, writing, and acting. The writing and the style of the sketch or the play or whatever it is you're watching is going to be appropriate to the style of puppet or performance object. The design of the puppet is going to accurately portray the character as it's meant to be seen by the audience, and the puppeteers then have the required skill to breathe life into that object. A lot of puppets that I've seen that are just absolutely gorgeous, but when you pick them up and try to handle them, if you don't have the skills, they stay dead. They stay objects. And good puppetry has that design and that acting together, that manipulation of the puppeteer that breathes life into this inanimate object and affects the audience through that. And in the sense, you're not merely letting the words or the voice in the play tell the story, but you're utilizing the object itself to reveal whatever emotion or action needs to occur to move the play along to affect the audience. Good puppetry also is going to communicate to the audience and guide them through the willing suspension of disbelief that's present in any theater, but is even more so in puppetry, because in puppetry, the suspension of disbelief is the foundation to moving forward or to building on the play from anything else. So even more, you really have to help the audience. And again, that's that breathing that life into the puppet that's going to help that happen. Remember, the puppeteer uses the puppet pretty much as a mask. They're always in control of the puppet, but the puppet still needs to have a life of its own. So no matter what the style of the puppet, there needs to be a good technique. I've seen so much bad technique, it just drives me insane. And that said, I've seen a horrible technique that was still intensely engaging and funny. Unfortunately, there are really no hard and fast rules in art. But the puppeteer needs to have a good understanding of both mask work and pantomime, so that even when there are voices or music, the work of the puppet's body is still going to be extremely important to that. There are a range of styles of puppetry as an art. Like I said, there's good and bad puppetry is going to exist in a variety of environments. Traditionally, some of the traditional areas we've seen puppetry used are going to be as folk art or popular art, used to tell stories is popular. entertainment. This is street performances or small theaters. That's a tradition that's still alive and well and all over the world. But this idea of the puppets just coming in to tell either local legends or myths or stories that people all over are going to understand. And at this point, then the puppetry, the artistry and the design of the puppetry are kind of sublimated to the story itself. They're really just using the puppets as a tool to tell a story. Then puppets have also been used as refined art. You find this especially in modern theater, where puppet artists are increasingly trying to fight to get away from the children's theater kind of ghetto that they've been relegated to, that they got relegated to especially in the 19th century, as puppeteers decided, especially in the 20s and 30s, as they came of age, to really bring up puppetry to a level of artistry that they felt it was being denied. Religious stories, puppets were often, and still do, are a way of connecting people to their religious roots. They used to be seen as a way to contact ancestors. Similar to masks, there is a way to take on the spirit of a god. Oftentimes, puppets can be seen as a house or a temple for the spirit of a god to take over. Again, taking that idea of breathing life into a puppet, very seriously, literally taking life and putting it into a puppet. Or as an effective way to tell religious stories and myths. Again, taking the puppetry back to this idea of storytellers. Like all theater, it exists primarily to tell stories. So you can see that as as we said, in popular folk tales or in religious contexts. So that's kind of our introduction to where we're going to be going with this course. We're in the next lecture. What we're going to do is cover some of the styles of puppetry and begin a little history lesson, just a very brief synopsis of where puppetry came from in the past as it's moved forward into modern times, and how it has developed through the ages. So we'll talk about that in the next lecture.